All right, sounds good.
Recording in progress.
So I'd like to welcome everyone to this celebration of Diane Thornton Emler's life. Um, uh, it's going to be interesting. I'm doing this uh, um, offhand. I don't have a script for it, but what I've done is I've tried to follow her life uh, and uh, the places that she's been kind of in chronological order. I've known Diane for 55 years, and that's a pretty long time to have an association with anyone. By the way, I'm kind of a crier at times, so I'll probably choke up. You guys are going to have to ignore that, and I'm just going to have to swallow it down, but I don't mind if you don't mind. But what I want to start just with her family, because Diane uh, really loved her family and spoke often about her family. In the last couple of weeks of her life, we talked a lot about Doug. Uh, she wanted to make sure that Doug would be okay, that I would contact him right away, things of that nature. And she shed some tears about leaving in that sense. And so I'm going to present the Thorntons. And some of these pictures I have never seen before. I mean, I have hundreds of pictures that I had to choose from. And this picture is one that I had not seen before. And of course, this is Doug uh, standing and Diane and brother Bobby sitting at this kitchen table. And then I found this picture that these guys did, repeating that picture as adults. And I thought that was really kind of cute. I really thought that was cool. Um, I added this picture of her brother Bobby because this is uh, the way that Diane remembered her brother Bobby. Bobby, unfortunately, had a pretty bad accident around being like 20 years old or so. I'm not sure that, but I was there with Diane when she got the news that he had been injured in a car accident pretty severely. They weren't sure for a few days whether he would even make it. And so it altered his life for the rest of his life. But she remembered her brother Bobby as a um, kind of a kind, compassionate. He had a lot of friends, and he'd be the kind of guy who'd give you the shirt off his back. And so this is how she would talk about her family. Um, this is Doug and his wife Stacy, and this is their daughter Jennifer and Luis. You had your camera off, but I wasn't going to let you get away with that. Um, and they have three children, and we talked about that in the chat a little bit. They have Brooke, the oldest, and then William and Catherine. And we spent some time on and off with you guys, but not very much. But I do still remember the plane trip. Uh, Luis is a pilot, and I was a pilot as well, and he took me up flying with him one time. It was great. So that's the family that's around now, pretty much. And Andrea Volpe, Dennis Volpe's daughter, and Beth Volpe's daughter, and that's Beth Trivison, who was Rick Trivison's sister, went to high school, graduated with Diane, and so Andrea gave me pictures from their yearbook, and in those pictures, there's Diane. And so I thought that was kind of cool. And this is her senior picture. Uh, this is Diane with her mother and her father. And this is Diane and myself with her father. Is probably the last time I saw him. He passed away, I believe he was like 59 years old, of a sudden illness. And so he didn't never got a chance to even know we would be married. We were friends at the time and visiting the house, etc. And so later on, I took this picture because Diane was a good golfer when she was young. And so when she would go to Florida, Fort Myers Beach, she would golf with mom. And this was Fort Myers Beach. This is the condo you see right behind her that she was up on the fourth floor. You see about three floors there, and the pool, and then just in the forward is the golf. And she spent more and more time with her mother was when her mother got older, and wound up when she was most worried about her being alone, calling her every day just to make sure she was okay. And so this is just Diane with her mom a couple of times. And here's Doug and her mom with Diane. This is when she's really advancing in age. And then, of course, Doug and Stacy and myself and Diane and mom. So um, that's the background for Diane um, and her family. I met Diane in September of 1970. Diane was 19 years old and I was 21. And I met her because she had become interested in uh, a class that I was made interested in back in July of 1970. So we have a common friend. His name was Bobby Sikelski, and he's passed since then. Susie Sikelski, she's on this Zoom. She's the woman from Rhode Island, that for those who were at the chat to begin with. And Bobby Sikelski had gone to Syracuse for some business and wound up going to this class. And I need to explain a little bit about this for Diane's family here because everything else I know about Diane is really associated with our being in this class and traveling for this class and expanding the class as far as teaching and studying, etc. This class that we got interested in is a religious and scientific research institute. It is often confused as a religion, but it is not a religion. I was raised Lutheran. I think Diane and Doug, you can correct me later. Although it's probably not necessary, but I think she was Episcopalian or Methodist, something like that. I was Lutheran. For instance, Dennis Volpe was Roman Catholic. So we had all kinds of people of all different religious backgrounds in this institute because what the institute is, it's a place to research about spirit, to research about God, to research about the Bible, and try to find out what is accurate, what is what can you prove about what you believe with respect to God, and what is just theories that people have come up with that have been become common lore, for instance. And so it's a school. And again, it's the Institute of Divine, that's referring to God, metaphysical, that's referring to spirit or non-physical things. So it's the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. And that means we research. And we research both in the Bible and in encyclopedias and in dictionaries. And I'll give you a simple example of that. and then I'll move on. But when I became interested, why I became interested in the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research was because Bobby Zakowski was talking to me about it, and he kept talking about the Old Testament and Moses and this stuff, and I listened half-heartedly. He mentioned this name Yahweh, and I didn't know what that was. I had never heard the name before, and he told me it was God's name. And I couldn't really believe that because I was raised a Lutheran. I went to catechism class and, vacation Bible school. I had a youth mentor walking me through the New Testament. So I was pretty much involved as much as you could be, in your early teens, etc. I had never heard the name before, and I just couldn't believe that God had a name that in all the studies you do for my religion, Lutheranism, they don't mention it. It just didn't make sense to me. So I really couldn't believe that that was true. But I looked in an encyclopedia and found out I had looked up Jehovah in an encyclopedia because I knew the name Jehovah because we had Jehovah Witnesses as landlords, and I never thought much about it. And I looked up Jehovah and it said properly Yahweh. And then I did some research and found out that that in fact is God's name, but it's not um, taught regularly. And that tweaked my interest because I was interested in God, obviously, at one point in my life, and then I kind of lost interest. I stopped going to church. I didn't read the Bible or any of that kind of stuff. But this idea that there was something I didn't know that I thought I should know stimulated my interest. And that's what brought me into this class. I'll give you a little more background about this class, then I'll finish. But I think you just need to have the foundation in order to appreciate the rest of this discourse here, this celebration. The school, the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, was started by a man called Henry Clifford Kinley. That was his name. And he claimed to have had a divine vision and revelation from God, which is not unusual. It's a common thing you hear in many religions. A lot of religions start from people who claim to have spoke to God, etc. Dr. Kinley was not intent on starting a religion. He was intent on teaching what God was like out of the scriptures and out of the creation, things you could prove. And he made this statement. Now, remember, well, and many of you may not know this, but I'm a scientist. I was going to school in science. I was at RIT taking biology and planning on going further into science, which I did. And I understood the concept of proving something to know whether or not it's true. You have to do experiments. You have to search out and try to find out whether something's true or not. And Dr. Kinley said this, I had a divine vision in Revelation. Now, I don't expect you to believe it just because I said it. He said, make me prove it until you're satisfied. And that was, I took that challenge for the next 55 years. And one of those challenges was the name. Someone told me the name. Bobby told me the name. I didn't believe it, but I proved it by going into Encyclopedia Britannica, Judaica, and all over, and researching a little bit about the Hebrew language and etc. So that's what intrigued me. Not that it was a religion, not that I was going to practice some kind of a way of worship, but that I was going to learn something, and I was used to learning things in college. Same thing happened with Diane. And so in September, she encountered Bobby he had gone to pick something up at her house. She encountered him. She didn't even know his name. He was just her friend Jimmy's friend. And she was looking around for this package that he had come for, and she couldn't find it. And she was worried that he was going to get bored because he was like waiting and waiting and waiting for her to find this. And she was looking and couldn't find it. So she handed him the book, The Prophet by Gibran. And Bobby took it and just dropped it on the coffee table and told her, well, I'm studying a book that's going to take me the rest of my life. and he was referring to the Bible because he was looking into that as a research tool, not as a religious object of worship. And that night, Diane became curious about a pattern of threes, and that Jimmy's friend knows about that. And so she didn't even know Bobby's name. She sent out word about this kid, Bobby, and got him to come back to her apartment. She told him that she understands that there's a pattern of threes. Do you know anything about it? And he said yes, because the Bible describes this pattern of threes. And I'm not going to get into all the details. That's not necessary. This is just a background foundation so you can appreciate what we were doing for the next 55 years. We stayed in school essentially and did a lot of learning and did a lot of teaching. And so Bobby took her to one of these lectures, a class, and she began learning and began being interested. And for those of you who knew Thordy or Diane before she came into studying in this class, you would realize she wasn't into the Bible. She wasn't going to church. She wasn't God-minded. She was a normal 19-year-old, like I was a normal 21-year-old, knocking around and doing normal stuff. But we became interested because we saw something that could be proven to us and not something someone thought and that we were expected to believe. So that's the background and foundation. So that happened in September of 1970. And for the next uh, few months, 6, 7, 8 months, Diane and Bobby and myself, and later others, Dennis Volpe, etc., began attending these lectures. They're 2-hour lectures. And, college is 1 hour, and you'd think 1 hour is long enough. But these lectures had so much knowledge and impactful information, both scientifically and biblically and historically, that it was intriguing enough to be able to sit there for 2 hours. And so we attended a lot of these lectures through the fall and winter of 1971. And there was going to be a convention in Los Angeles in 1971, and we planned to go. Uh, Diane and I, and Dennis Volpe, who's on this, Mike Rothstein, another person, and Bobby Keller. The five of us decided to go in two cars, Volkswagen and a van. And this picture I have because it was an interesting trip in June of 1971 to go from New York to California. If you remember back in the 70s, there's no GPS, there's no cell phones. As soon as you get on the road, you're at the mercy of having a physical map in your hand or stopping and asking for directions. And so I joined AAA and got a trip pack, and they charted the road from New York all the way to California. And so we started in New York, but before we started going dead west, we went up into Canada because there was a class up in Canada, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, run by Rod Channer. And since we were on our way west, we decided we were going to stop at a couple of classes on the way. So we stopped it and saw Rod Channer. We met him, and that was good. And then we came down, took the Queens Highway to Detroit, and there was a class in Detroit. So we stopped there. And I'm going to mention a lot of names now, and you guys, Doug and Stacy and Luis and Jennifer won't be able to appreciate them, but I've got a whole bunch of other people on here, and I'm doing it for their sake, just to bring up a feeling for this trip that we took because it was very impactful. But so we went into Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, and Mickey Mixon was the dean, and his wife Monta. We met them. We met a lot of people there. Paul and Ophelia Turner. Ophelia was a great singer. We met Donnie Embry, Michael Ali, Martell Greer, Althoris Patterson. And I mention these names because a lot of people in this Zoom remembrance know some of these people, and some of them only know them as older people. We knew them because they were about our age or a little older back in 1970 when we met them. And it was pretty interesting to see these folks. I guess I should add this, that in 1970, the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research was predominantly a Black organization, although the co-founder, the first person who worked with Dr. Kinley, who was a Black man, Dr. Kinley was, Carl F. Gross was white. And so really it was a 50-50 black and white as they began starting the school back in the early 1930s. And so, but predominantly black people gravitated towards it. And so all of Detroit pretty much were black people, and we white kids were kind of like fish out of water in a sense, but it was unnoticeable to us because there was such a camaraderie. Anyways, that was Detroit, and then we kept on going. We went to Chicago, and that's where Rip Macklin, um, Alfonso Macklin, and his wife Lenny, and others were. And so we went to class there, and then we were going to head straight out to LA. And Rip uh, told us that we should go to Ohio because this is where the school started in Springfield, Ohio. And he said, you can't go out. You're so close to Ohio. You should go to Ohio. And I'm thinking that's backtracking all the way through Indiana. We're going to go to Ohio. That doesn't make any sense. But Rip convinced us to call Ohio and tell them that we were coming out there. And the folks in Ohio, Oliver Gill and Lejeune, he was the dean there in Ohio, told us that Dr. Kinley had already called them and told them we would be coming out there. So we found that pretty interesting. So we traveled to Ohio and we decided once we backtracked, we were going to go to every other school that was in the country. And so we dropped down to Birmingham, Alabama, and saw Willie Jones. And then we went over into Little Rock, Arkansas, and that's where Dewey and Nisi McCoy were. And Diane fell in love, and this is one of the reasons why I thought about bringing this up. Diane fell in love with the Arkansas class, especially Dewey. And she talked about moving to Arkansas when we were on this road trip. That's how much she was impressed and felt a kinship with uh, Dewey and Nisi. And there was a 10-year-old kid, and this is for you guys, there was a 10-year-old kid who was like this preacher kid who could teach the law and prophets and teach facts that he had found in the scriptures like an adult. And we were just marveled at this 10-year-old kid, Sylvester Hamilton, in 1970. And he's still around, folks know him. So, and that was it for the classes. There were no other classes in the country, in the United States. And so then we went out to California and met the founder. And the convention there was 9 days at the Beverly Hills Hilton Hotel for a convention. And we currently do seminars. I'm planning on going to a seminar in Chicago, and it's 4 days, 3 or 4 days. But this thing was 9 solid days. And we were so amped after that because we had so much, we learned so many things we had never learned before that we went back to New York and we actually drove back nonstop. It took about 35 hours to get from LA to New York. We just changed drivers sometimes. I mean, Diane and I switched drivers on the road. I'd slip in under and she'd slip out and she'd sleep for a while. And because when we got back to New York, we were bound and determined to set up an actual class in Rochester, which is where we were. The class we were going to was in Syracuse. That's where the only New York class was. Well, there was one in Syracuse, and then he would take that class and continue it in Elmira and Binghamton by that time. So there were three classes, but it was the same man teaching it. And so we decided we would start the class in Rochester. And in order to do that, and again, this is for Doug and Stacy and Luis and Jennifer, this class uses um, pretty large painted charts as pictorial illustrations of, body parts when we do anatomy and physiology. Some of it's scientific parts when we look at weather or we look at the electromagnetic spectrum. Some of it are parts of the Bible, and so we'll draw out and paint out like Mount Sinai in Egypt and talk about things. So we always use visual aids, but in order to use them, we had to make them. And so, and that was a pretty arduous task because you had to trace another chart and then copy it through carbon paper onto a big piece of canvas, 4 feet by 6 feet, and then paint that whole thing. And so each chart took weeks and weeks and weeks to make. Anyways, we were amped to do that. And so we did that, started the class in Rochester, New York, and were there through 1973. And it was in 1973 that Diane and Bobby moved to Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, and I followed. Well, that was yeah. I think it was the winter of '72 because I moved there in the winter of '73. So they were there in November something of '72, I think, and I came in February, I think, of '73. And so Diane and Bobby and myself were in Rhode Island starting a class. And so that's Diane's Rhode Island connection. And we were there for about 3 years or 2 or 3 years. And there was another convention in 1973 in Denver, Colorado. And this is the Denver connection for Diane. So there was a convention. There was not a class in Colorado, but there was a convention, and it was a huge convention. Another one of those multi-day experiences. They did that every 2 years to get everybody together and share knowledge and lectures, etc. So Diane decided that she wanted to um, move to Denver, uh, and whoa, I missed this. I have to show this picture first. Sorry about that. There's going to be glitches like this. This picture I took in 1971 when we got to Los Angeles, California. And this is the only picture I took of a person. I'm not really a big picture taker at that time. And I took this picture, and it's an interesting picture. I was laying down on the ground and taking a picture up and cranking it sideways. And I want you to see this because I think that it's look at the look on Diane's face. She's standing there going, "Are you gonna take the picture?" And it just was so real to me rather than just someone standing there smiling that I love this picture. I had this picture enlarged for this presentation as well. And so that was 1971. This was in June of 1971. Now, I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because I'm going to change folders of photographs and then move on. I'm going to try to move on pretty quickly. But in order to change, I have to stop sharing. So there's going to be, this is the clunkiness of this procedure. So bear with me here. All right, now I'm going to share my screen again if I can find, there it is. Now, does everybody see this? Does everybody see a car?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be asking that just because, like I said, I'm ateknical. This car is the car that we took to Denver, uh, probably 1974. Diane was moving to Denver. I was living in uh, Rhode Island with Bobby and Diane at the time, and I took some vacation time from work, and I was going to drive with her uh, to make sure, well, to help her drive to get her to Denver. And I told somebody that earlier that I almost was murdered in this car, and I'll uh, uh, give you this anecdote. And this is part of how I see this celebration of life going. I feel like telling her story as well as showing pictures. And so you guys are just going to have to kind of bear with me on this, if you will. But we drove into Denver from Rhode Island and got there and talked with a few people who might be interested in class and someone else who had gone there to think about setting up a class as well. And Diane just thought, she just wasn't sure about moving to Denver. So she said, well, let's drive out to California and see Dr. Kinley because we had established a good enough relationship that we went back and forth a couple of times and spoke with him and other people. So we were driving out to Los Angeles. And again, there's no GPS. You got maps. You got to figure out where you are. And now we're going through the mountains. Diane's sound asleep in the car. It's nighttime, and I missed the turn that I was supposed to take. And so now I really don't know where I'm going. And I didn't turn around and try to find a turn. I thought, well, I'll keep looking for a 4-lane highway. And if I keep going either west or south, which is the direction of Los Angeles from Denver, that I'll eventually find it. This is my thinking, and it's kind of crazy, but that's who I am. That's the way it was. So Diane got up, woke up, and she goes to me, she goes, where are we? And I go, well, I don't really know. I missed a turn and now I'm looking for a 4-lane highway. And she near about killed me. She exploded, man. She was angry. And we laughed about it later, but it was one of the few times that she really, really got mad at me. But fortunately, we found a 4-laner and made it to LA. And she spoke with Dr. Kinley about um, the setting up a class in Denver. Diane was a little worried that her um, knowledge of where scriptures are and stuff like that was hard. She didn't have a lot of memory for scripture. She knew what was in, but she didn't have a lot of memory for it. Dr. Kinley encouraged her. He said, you don't need to know uh, where the scriptures are. You need to know they're there. You can always find them later. And so he encouraged her to start that class. And so then we drove back. We drove back to Denver and started the class. And this was the class that ended up being the early Denver class. And some of these people are currently on this Zoom. Some of these people are no longer with us. But so in this picture, and I'm just going to point some people out. This is Reba, and Reba's already spoken in the chat. She's the woman from Syracuse and knew Diane for 50 plus years. This is Debbie Roberts, who is now in New England. She came into class in Rhode Island and moved to Denver. She's Deb Wiedenheft now, who's in class. Here's Diane. This is Dave Oyster, and he's on this Zoom. Jack Sahara's passed. Sandy Fitchin was one of Diane's first students. And then this is Terry Bumpus came into class in Rhode Island with Debbie Roberts, and they both moved to Colorado. And then me. And I was in this class for about 3 years, and then I wound up going to graduate school in West Virginia. So I left and moved to West Virginia for about 3 years. And this is funny because I wound up taking headshots of each of these people, like it's that they're at a police station. And so I just wanted to go through these uh, for the sake of them who are here and for the sake of them who remember each other from this class. And this particular picture, this is Jack Sahar, who we saw in the group picture with Diane. And this is more than likely during the time that Diane was planning the seminar. Diane held the seminar in Denver, and I don't remember what year it was because that I didn't have a mind for that. But Dewey McCoy, if you remember, she wanted to fell in love with Dewey and Nisi McCoy from Little Rock, Arkansas, and she had Dewey to come to Denver. He was kind of the keynote speaker for this uh, seminar she set up, and it was a pretty successful seminar that she had organized there. This is Diane in the house actually that they had rented. And I think Reba and Jack lived there and Diane lived there and they all pooled their money in for rent and stuff like that. And I believe this is the Tennyson Street apartment. Um, and another shot of the Tennyson Street apartment. And I'll bring up this Tennyson Street apartment later. So kind of just look at this and look at the environment. What a nice place this is. And, it just looked like a great house, and it was. We'll talk about that later. Um, Also, in Denver, there's a place called Red Rocks that we would go and climb the rocks. They had a natural amphitheater there. And I show this picture because, of course, Diane's here, but we also have um, Beth Volpe. This is Rick Trivison's sister. This is Beth Trivison. And this is Dennis Volpe here. And so Dennis and Beth were married. This is Sandy Fitchin, the first person Diane got interested in class. And this person's name is Robbie Grace. He came into class in Rhode Island. And so I grabbed this picture since I, wanted to show different aspects of her life and things that we did, etc. And I included that. I included this picture because this is Diane and Dennis is guiding her down. And I thought, wow, we have a picture of Dennis being helpful. And so I couldn't pass. I couldn't pass this picture up. So, so this essentially is what I have of Diane's Denver um, experience that I was involved with, that I have pictures of. But Diane was in Denver for, I would say, about 12 years. And class grew, and people came in to class. Margaret Klingscales and Doug Klingscales. Margaret came in first, before Doug, and they weren't married yet, but Margaret came into class, and then Doug and Klingscales and Margaret got married. And I do it that way because I don't know Margaret's maiden name, and she's on this this Zoom thing right now, either Zoom or YouTube. And so I know the connection through her husband, Doug, as far as last name is concerned. So Diane started expanding the class. That's where Dana Preister came into class. Reba moved to Denver. Sue Ellen Holtgirdle, who is now Sue Ellen McGuire, moved to Denver. Other people moved to Denver. And the class got really big and really uh, a really good class. And Diane is the one who really put that class together for 12 years. And then uh, from that 12 years, and that's all I'm going to say about Denver, Diane wound up moving to Wisconsin. We wound up getting married in 1986. Uh, and so we met in 1970, but we didn't really get married. We didn't get married until 1986. And so this is some time we spent apart, etc. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and take you to Madison. So bear with me again. Um, okay, and now I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So do you see dogs?
Yes.
So this is actually Rhode Island. And this is Bob Sikelski, who I have been talking about, who talked to me first off about class, or about the name Yahweh, and then talked to Diane about this threefold pattern. And so he's the one who drew us to these lectures back in 1970. And Sue Sikelski, who's in Rhode Island, is his wife. And Bobby passed several years ago, I think 2020, 2021, somewhere.
2020.
2020, okay. Um, anyways, um, and you might wonder what the connection is between Rhode Island and Madison, and that is that this picture shows the nature of our experience in Rhode Island. Rhode Island was an absolute comfort spot. In other words, it was a place where you could rest physically and psychologically and spiritually. It was a safe zone, and still is, where honesty ruled and there was no judgment, no judgmental aspects. You didn't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. It was a completely open and free area. And it is in this setting and in this condition that Diane and I become getting married was seeded. The seeds of our marriage started at this time in Rhode Island over our getting together there. And I can't go into all the details of it, but it's what brought us together while I was in Wisconsin living and while Diane was in Colorado living. And so after this picture was taken, I think it was probably about a year and a half or 2 years, and we got married. Diane and I were married. This is Bobby. Bobby and Sue stood up for our wedding. Absolutely nobody knew that we were getting married. It was just in it. And it's not like well, I don't know what it's like. All I can say is that nobody knew we were getting married. Diane flew in from Denver. I flew in from Wisconsin. And we had already arranged the license and everything. And Bobby and she were going to stand up for our wedding. And we got married. That's the best I can tell you in the simplicity of it, the time frame. And there's, of course, Susie, who's on this Zoom meeting. And this is 30 years later. This is our 30th wedding anniversary. We went into Rhode Island to celebrate it with Bobby and Sue. But now, if you remember, I told you to take a look at that apartment or that house in Denver where Diane was living, that nice looking house with the nice looking comfortable furniture and all of that. That's where Diane was living. And this is what she moved to. This this is a house that I built with friends, and I say I built. The friends did most of the knowledgeable work in constructing this. I pounded nails and pulled wires, but people in class, and these are the folks, Doug and Stacy and Jennifer and Luis, that are joining us that are we know from this class. People in this class had all different kinds of skills. And a friend of mine, the dean in Green Bay, Wisconsin, said, "Well, you got that land. Let's build a house." And it was Dave Willickett, and I said, "Dave, can we do that?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I drew up plans for this house myself, and I had them okayed at the town board and got a building permit. And Bob Welch, Sharon Welch, you all guys know Sharon. Her husband knew how to do pretty much everything, contracting, building, and stuff. He came out from New York. Dave Willickett and Jim Russo and a bunch of people came down from Green Bay. Joel Turner, who's on this, and you Florida folks know Joel Turner. He was someone who was in Green Bay and came down, helped build this house. And Steve, we'll talk about later, helped at the second stage of this house. But anyways, we built this house. And as you can see, there's a whole stack of wood here because I heated predominantly with wood. There was some radiant heat, but I heated predominantly with wood. And so when we got married, this is the house that Diane moved to from the very comfortable house you saw before. Now, I have to say, this is what the house looked like inside. Now, before Diane got here, I got rid of all these boxes and all this other kind of stuff, but it's concrete floors and throw rugs and unfinished walls and ceilings. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because I'm talking about Diane. And now this is going to let you know a little bit about Diane, some things you may not know about her. This was the kitchen that I had. I had particle board for countertops and concrete floors. This is a house I could live in, but it wasn't a house Diane could live in. And Diane immediately conscripted the girls from Green Bay to come down and sand all the walls so we could prime and paint it. She organized that whole thing, and so they all did this. And so this is Diane kind of just, instead of having an issue with the situation, she took control of it. And so this is the house. We didn't have air conditioning, so she grew sunflower seeds to cover the windows. And in 2 years, we put the second story on. And the only reason I show this photo is because she complained to her mother when she first moved to Wisconsin. She goes, "She's got me out in the middle of a cornfield." And in fact, there's the cornfield. And that's really what we did. And these windows are where the library was. I mentioned Steve Gagne, and he actually built oak bookshelves around all these windows and an oak entertainment center in here. Neil Preister came out and helped with this from Colorado and stuff. So everybody helped with this kind of thing. And so I just wanted to show what Diane went from uh, and to, and how well she handled it. Instead of complaining, she put it together and cleaned it up and got it painted and ready to go, and then orchestrated getting the second story on. So this house really turned out to be a product of a lot of her initiative. This is the first, these are an early picture of the Madison people class. And so again, this is Dennis Volpe and Andrea Volpe, his daughter. So Dennis and Andrea. This is Dave Seward. This is Sasha and his wife, Elena. We called her Helen because she was never satisfied with how we could pronounce her name. And this is Sasha and Helen's, Mark and Tanya, their kids, their children. And I have one other picture of Helen. And this is Diane's shoulder, by the way. So Diane's in this picture. But Helen, about 26 years ago, was killed in a tragic automobile truck accident. And it was awful. She was a medical doctor. She had gotten her medical degree in um, uh, uh, Russia, but then got accredited in the United States, which is not a simple thing to do. And she was a wonderful person and a great teacher as far as IDMR is concerned, as far as class is concerned, as far as understanding the operation of the scriptures and science particularly. And so that's and this is the Madison class. Later on, again, Sasha is here. And so this is Sasha, which we saw in the other picture as a younger man. Dave Seward, we saw in the younger picture as a young man. And then Kelly and Steve Gagno. This is Rick Enzenroth and his wife Michelle and their son Jason. And I point out Rick because although Rick looks like an old man here, when Diane first met him, he was much, much younger. And she kind of adopted this kid, him and his mother coming into class. And she took him under her wing and guided him through things. And that boy's still around. He's on this Zoom class. And during the time that we were in Madison, Diane turned 50 years old, and I threw a 50-year birthday party and had people come from all over the country there. And this is Bobby Sikelski, of course, Diane and me, and this is Sherry Romano, Trivison Hill, and I put this picture in here because it was such a happy picture. I just loved that. This is the crew, Sue Ellen McGuire, and again, Dave Seward, Diane. This is Delilah Tucker and Sherry again, and Bobby and Sue. And this is the 50th birthday. And this is us just lounging around, waiting for our table and stuff like that. And this another, I mean, we just laughed and had such a good time during this whole thing. And so that's what I wanted to capture about this. And And so this you can't really talk about I can't talk about Diane's Madison, Wisconsin experience without talking about these two. This is Karen Gagno and her and Steve's daughter, Callie. And Callie sent me this picture yesterday. And, and I had to put it on. I had to show this. She entitled it Me and My Two Moms. Uh, when Karen had Callie and had to go back to work, Diane was not working and wound up being able to take care of Callie during the time Karen was working and established uh, a bond, a relationship, a second mother, a trusted, loved person in Callie's life. And it was so good for Diane and it was so good for Callie. And so I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of that. This is Diane and Callie. Callie's a little younger there, but so is Diane. And I love this picture of Diane. I love this smile of Diane because this is the real Diane that I knew. This is the Diane that I married. Later, she had to change her smile a bit and change with dentures and stuff. But this, I just love this picture. So I'm showing pictures I love for you guys. That's what can I tell you? This is a celebration from me to all of you. Um, this is Diane, of course, years later with Callie. And these are American Girl dolls. Diane worked for this pretty much startup company that was going, and by the time she got there, it was just finishing being a startup and being a really regular company. And it's the American Girl Dolls, Pleasant Company. And these dolls were unique because they were educational dolls. You bought a doll, you had to get a book, and you learned about the culture and the et cetera, about that. And so Callie wound up with a whole family of these things because, of course, Diane worked there. And so I thought that was cool that this picture showing that. This is Callie grown now. Callie was in theater for several years when she was younger in she started in high school and continued afterwards at a theater group. And we would always get together and go to her plays. And this was one of the plays that she was at. And this is Ruth Thomas from Green Bay, Wisconsin, Doug Thomas's wife. Again, Dave and Alice, Karen, this is Callie, of course, now grown. This is uh, uh, Shannon Geezy. This is Judy and Don Geezy's son, Shannon. Steve, this is Lisa, Diane. There's little Sharon Welch. You got her little head in there, and Diane. We all attended the play, and there were several plays we attended, and I had pictures from all of them, but I certainly didn't uh, conclude them. And I believe this is one of Callie's plays. I think it's at a school because it looks like that's a school there. This playbill is not a professional playbill like if we had gone to the theater in Madison. And people have cameras, so apparently their kids are part of this. So I'm thinking this picture was taken at one of Callie.
Carl, I
Yes.
think this is her high school graduation.
Oh, okay. I that's that's good. High school graduation. So we were there. And this picture I love very much because this shows the love, and Diane is pretty old here, and Callie is just towering over her and engulfing her. Part of that is probably some 3-inch stilettos, but regardless, that's their relationship. And so um, I'm moving on now, and I'm going to try to move on pretty quick. And these dogs are important because, again, it has to do with Diane. So I had a dog before we were married, and we had that dog for years. Diane had to get used to the dog, and the dog had to get used to her, Beamer. And they did. They made a friendship with each other, and then Beamer died. And we didn't have a dog for about 6 months, and I wasn't really looking for a dog. And Bobby and Diane were on a phone conversation that I didn't know anything about. And Bobby Zikalski tells her, it's time you get him a dog. And this is the kind of relationship that we had. And so Diane started doing research, finding a breeder and stuff. I don't know any of this is going on. And finally, she tells me, I found a breeder of Brittany's. They have a girl. I wanted a female dog because I had always had female dogs, so I knew I would get a female if we had another one. They had one. And so we went out and to get these to look at these dogs. And so this is the girl, Babe, we named her, and I picked her up and had her. And so, anyways, we were, we were negotiating with the guy, talking with him, and looking at and playing with the other puppies. And Diane picked up this this puppy, and we went and sat on the front porch and just chatted about it. And this boy fell asleep in her lap. And Diane looks over at me. She goes, would you like to have two dogs? And my heart jumped and my eyes opened like headlights, bright headlights. I go, can we? And she said, sure. And so Diane again orchestrated this very important event in our lives. And Diane was never raised with dogs or anything, but she trained these dogs and she became quite a dog person. And these are those dogs as adults. And that was a wonderful thing. Next thing I'm going to show, and I'm going to try to scream through these things now because I've eaten up an hour and I didn't expect to do that, but you never know. This tractor represents something pretty important as far as Diane is concerned. And it made me think of this because after Diane passed, I was going through a lot of her belongings and stuff. And I found her boating license, which she probably got when she was 12 or 14 years old. She kept it all these years. It was in her jewelry box. And I remember the story she would tell me about her grandfather's cottage on Skinny Atlas Lake and how much she loved that cottage and how much she loved her grandfather and how her grandfather, he was shingling the roof one time and he took her up on the roof and taught her how to pound nails. She was thrilled with that. And when she got her boating license, he handed her the keys to the boat and said, take off. And she was free on the water. She could go any place on the water in that boat because she had her boating license. Well, when I got this tractor, we lived on 40 acres, which is a heck of a lot of land. And Diane couldn't go a lot of places on the land because you got to hike it. When she got this tractor, it was like a land boat. She took this tractor everywhere. She wound up needing to get a chainsaw, believe it or not, because she wanted to cut trees down in the woods so she could bring rocks back. These are some rocks and stuff that she would collect. And she did all this landscaping. Now I put the railroad ties in, but all the 4x4s and the pavers, she would do all of this work. It's just amazing. She did these pavers or these wood steps herself. Again, this is Diane. She turned to me one time and said, I need a circular saw. And your circular saw, she told me, it's too heavy for me. So I had to find a smaller circular saw for her. I called it the Lady Remington. And she took treated lumber and cut all these pieces up and built these pavers, these wood pavers to this deck. And so she would just do all this stuff instantly. I was just amazed how she took to this farm. Um, this picture, I love this picture. We heated with wood. And so I would cut down trees in the spring and log them out and bring them to the house and rent a log splitter. And we would split, I would split wood and Diane would stack it. And the reason I like this picture is all this wood back there, Diane was stacking. We would stack 3 full cords of wood every winter. And she's got a smile on her face. It's like, yep, this is the work. And it just speaks to me about how Diane embraced everything that she took to. Another thing, we had 25 acres in prairie grasses that we would burn every year, and this is one of our burns. And so Diane would do the back burn, and this is Bonnie Brings, who's on this Zoom or YouTube, and her husband helping with the backburn. And so backburn is you light the fire when the wind's in your face and it burns in 2 directions. It burns backwards, but it's also burning towards you. But when it burns towards you, you put it out. So finally it doesn't burn towards you anymore because it's all black. And and it slowly burns back. And then you run around to the other side and you start the wind side and you get a huge fire from the wind and it comes and it meets in the middle and goes out. And that's how you burn a field. Diane was a part of that. Uh, uh, and I'm going to show this picture because another thing that points to Diane. Again, this is my celebration. I guess I'm doing this maybe more for me than anybody else. But this is our house. And you remember it looking like this. But now it looks like this because this is 25 years later and it's just lush. We were surrounded by pine forest by this time. We were having dinner and Diane turns to me and she says, Emler. And as soon as she said Emler, I knew I was in trouble because she never addressed me as Emler unless she had already made up her mind about something and this is what was going to happen. She had thought it out or whatever. And it's seldom did she call me Emler, but when she did, it was because she wanted to make a point that was already made in her mind. She said, Emler, we are not going to die in Wisconsin. And so I said, find a place. And she began looking, and that's how we wound up in Oceanside. She said, we're not going to die in Wisconsin. We're not going to deal with this snow. And I didn't even give it a second thought, not even a second thought, because you remember she moved out to Wisconsin to that little house with no paint on the walls and concrete floors. And she did that in an instant. And I felt she wants to move. I don't care how much we put into this house or how much it holds to us. I'm ready to go. And so that's how we wound up in Denver. And before we left, this was the Madison class. And I won't go through all the people here, but I could, but I won't. It's too much. But this is the class that Diane got going. And this is the class that was left, and Steve Gagno was left in charge. And so that's the Madison aspect of our life. And I wanted to show this picture because while we were in Madison, Diane went to Egypt, the Middle East with her mom. They toured Egypt and Greece and Israel and Isle of Patmos and all of this. But this one particular picture Diane had wanted to take because this is Karnak in Egypt, where the kings were, the pharaohs were south of Cairo, about maybe 70 or 100 miles. I don't really know how far south. And these pillars are huge, and you can see they just keep going on down out of this picture. And Diane said that she could picture Moses walking to Pharaoh when he was going to tell him to let Israel go, and how that the Pharaoh would have built these temples to be totally intimidating to anybody who would walk down there. And so she wanted to just show what Moses had to face on his way to Pharaoh to say, let my people go. And again, I just thought that that was an interesting thought. So now I'm going to stop sharing again. I'm going to do my last thing. So bear with me, guys. We're going to do Oceanside. Okay. There we go. And I trust you see this, so we're good. So in 2011, Diane and Karen Gagnon flew out to Oceanside because we had bought a house in 2010. We had bought a house in Fallbrook, California. And this is the house we bought. And Diane flew out. She was going to live there, and then I would follow in uh, April of 2012 after I sold our house in Wisconsin and cleaned up my work business and all that kind of stuff. So Diane and Karen flew out, and Callie and I drove Diane's car out in December with the two dogs, Buddy and Bay. No, that was Bosley and Abigail by that time. Buddy and Babe had passed, and we'd acquired a couple of more dogs, Bosley and Abigail. And so I brought her car to Diane in California so she'd have a car. And I brought the dogs so she'd have company, so she wouldn't be alone in the house. And Callie was 20 years old when we did this. And she was the second driver, which was at times a little scary to me. She wound up driving through Las Vegas, being the driver through Las Vegas, if I remember. So this is us on the beach when Callie and I had gotten there with the car and the dogs. And this is Vicky Knuth, again, Dennis Volpe and Karen and Callie and myself. And so all of um, what I'm going to show about Oceanside is just going to be people, because this was where we retired. And this was where, for Diane, she got what she bathed herself in, what she loved to have, and that is to be around people. And the Oceanside class was pretty big when we got there. There was about 20 people there. I'm just going to blow through some pictures and then I'll be done with this. This is Carol Miller, who lived in Oceanside at the time, but moved to Tampa when her daughter Pam married Joel Turner and took the grandkids to Tampa. And so Grandma followed. And this we have, this is Mel Knuth, Vicky's husband, over on the right. And of course, Bruce Geller must have been his birthday. So this is Diane enjoying the people. This is having breakfast with visitors. Alice and Dave Seward visited us. We were having a class, and Rhonda was there, and Shannon Brewster, and folks like that. So all these pictures are just going to be Diane with people, because this is what she loved. And this hopefully brings some of you people who are in this and see yourself with her, to know how much you have contributed to the quality of her life by coming and visiting us. And so and this is the house, just relaxing, just with a bunch of people. Diane was always comfortable if the house was filled with people. Jerry and Vanessa Kinley came out with a crew, and they just, Diane would just love it when the house was like littered with people. These are the whole Ohio folks had it come, and this was around COVID because they were going to go up into Oakland and visit, and they had to scramble because they were closing airports. If you guys remember, in the winter and spring of 2020, they were closing airports, etc. And so people just couldn't do that. This is Janice and Terry Welch. We had the marshals here, and Gail and Mike Josephson, and of course Reba. Uh, uh, these were visitors we had. And this picture, I love this picture. Talk about being satisfied, talking about just wallowing in comfort and being happy. She's just beside herself. I love seeing her that way. We had the Florida people, Seth and Angel and her parents and Nikki come. Diane got a chance to spend time with them and loved it. We were so happy you guys came. Um, and this is the Oceanside class that was about 6 months ago, 7 months ago. But within that 7 months, we lost Bruce Geller, Jerry's husband, and we lost Diane. So now this class is yet and still even much smaller. But I took this picture, included this picture. Steve was visiting, Steve Gagne was visiting, but Diane and I were so comfortable together. We just fell into each other. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I don't know how else to say it. And this picture says that to me. So I'm including that. We had Stephen, Diane Geezy, and we had Lisa Zeise come and visit. This is Felicia Hamilton came, and we had a nice visit with Felicia. Diane was very close with Carla Kinley Davis, and we went and stayed with her in Yellow Springs, Ohio, one time. Dana Davis and Carla. I took this picture of Lionel. Lionel, you'll have to excuse me, but I took this picture of you. Of course, we had a nice lunch, a couple of nice lunches together. Diane loved you. But I saw this picture and all I could think of was Frankenstein because of the boots, I think it is. But it's not the evil Frankenstein, it's the young Frankenstein from Mel Brooks, so you're okay. But but I love this picture. And this picture was one of our first selfies, probably of only selfies, taken at the Old Globe in London. And Diane and I had the opportunity to tour England with a theater group and see various plays and stuff. And I included this because it's a happy picture. This picture is an unusual because Diane's usually in her chair, and here we are sharing the couch in just a total comfort zone. And I can't have a celebration without Diane in the pool, because as Diane often told me, she could swim before she could walk because they went to that cottage at Skinny Atlas Lake every year. And Diane's mom wanted to make sure her kids weren't going to drown. And so she taught them all to swim as soon as she could. And this is the last picture I'm going to show. This is one of my most favorite pictures of Diane. This is from 2024, year before she died. And I see so much beauty in this picture. I don't know how to explain it. She's just strong, determined. It's the inner beauty that I see. It's not the outer beauty at all. There's so much life in this expression, this conversation. Just, I see the oranges in her other hand, you know, ready. She's planning on, she has a future. This picture just speaks life to me. And you wouldn't think a picture of an old person would be so beautiful unless you knew what you were looking at. When you look inside a person, that's where the beauty really is. And as you all know, all of us in our 70s know that that outward beauty goes away, but what is internal radiates and is comforting. And this picture with Callie, these two, uh, just warms my heart. So that's the end of my verbal presentation. There are two more parts of this. What uh, Karen did is she had put together a 10-minute photo montage to music, and I really liked it. And when we were in Madison, the Madison class got together and made a CD singing songs, and it's a CD. And so this uh, um, montage that I'm going to show you guys is going to be to the music, two of the songs of the music of this CD, and then one song that's not, but is a popular, well, a professional song. But the significance of that is that uh, the day before Diane died, I played these songs to her in the living room, and the third song um, just uh, really touches my heart. And so I'm going to play this. Let me see here. I got to go here and I got to share my screen. Sorry, guys, it's just this clunkiness. So you see this picture of Diane, I take it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Karen's montage.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace keep the hour I first
You can do anything extremely cute, honey.
Oh, I gotta figure out what you made dangers, toils and snares.
No, it rests.
I have already gone. 'Twas grace that brought me thus far. and grace will bring me home. Amazing grace, how sweet that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. No child, hear my word. I am Yahweh. Let your heart find rest. I waited just for you. Listen and hear clearly. I am holy. Just listen to the waves knocking on the shore. See the eagles soaring, her faces in the song. Those storms tear her feathers to the sun. She bears her young. Every beat of her wings glorifies my name. Just listen to the waves knocking on the shore. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Dolphins are always smiling for joy they live their days. Through a long sea journey, they won't lose their way. They breathe the breath of heaven, they breathe my name. Just listen to the waves knocking on the shore. From the clearing they stroll through the songs, the sanctuary is near. The refreshing before my eyes is cool, crisp and clear. So the earth grows by the weight of elephants gathering round to appreciate the waves knocking on the shore. Yahweh, Yahweh. Watching the sun, watching it come, watching it come up over the rooftops. Being warm, maybe a storm, you can never quite tell from the morning. And it's going to be a day. There is really no way to say no to the morning. Yes, it's going to be a day. There is really nothing left to say, but come on, morning. Hoping to see a friend for me come through the door. I hope he stays here. Sometimes they come, often there's none. Thinking of all who might be chosen. And it's going to be a day. There is really no way to say no to the morning. Yes, it's going to be a day. There is really nothing left to say, but come on, morning. And maybe there are seasons, and maybe they change, and maybe to love is not so strange. Sounds of the day, now they hurry away. Now they are gone until tomorrow. A new age will break, and you will wake, and you will rake your hands across your eyes, and realize that it's going to be a day. There is really no way to say no to the morning. Yes, it's going to be a day. There is really nothing left to say, but come on, morning. There are seasons, and maybe they change, and maybe to love is not so strange.
Okay, so thank you, Karen, for putting that together. I have one more part of this, and it has to do with when Diane was in New York in September of this year. She knew even more than I that she was dying, just to be straight about it. And she had talked to Reba Zahar about, don't do anything big for me, just put up a chart and have class. And Roxanne Rousseau in Green Bay, Wisconsin found, and this was not associated, this is just coincidental, if you would, found a VHS or VCR, whatever those old time cartridges are, of a lecture that Diane gave in Green Bay, Wisconsin, back, I believe, in the late 90s. And she digitized it. And Daryl Hewells helped me to find a segment of this that I could reduce to a short well, short, it's about 20 minutes long, and it's Diane actually teaching some aspect that she had learned in this class. And the aspect she's teaching is about the covenants. And I'll just give you a quick background on this for Doug and the family, is that she's going to be talking about Moses getting the 10 Commandments from Mount Sinai. And, you know, most of us Christians know the movie The 10 Commandments from 1956, I think it was, with Charlton Heston. And that's where we get our knowledge about all that happened in Egypt and all that kind of stuff. But what we don't know and what we didn't know was that that covenant was given to the Jews and Jews only, was never given to us Gentiles, us Christians, and that there was a new covenant that was spoken about and prophesied about in Jeremiah and Isaiah, etc., that there would be a new covenant and it wouldn't be like that. And so Diane is trying to explain the difference between these two covenants and how significant that is. And so that's what I'd like to play. And at that point, if people want, they can share their thoughts after this plays. So just bear with me. It's going to be about 20 minutes or so. And, oh gosh. Here we go.
Was going on in this physical tabernacle was a figure, was an allegory, was a type, was an example, was a shadow of a spiritual reality or heavenly thing. There's something to learn here, so read.
In which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect.
This is my point. They offered gifts. They offered sacrifice, but there was a problem. They offered up the offering for coveting the ox. 2 days later, back in the same spot. You understand? A week later, maybe he got rid of that problem, and now I got a bigger problem. Gee, I got that one on my back, and now I got this one on my back. Do you understand? The offering of the physical sacrifices did nothing for what? Read it. Could not make,
As pertaining to the conscience.
could not
Not make him that did the service perfect.
could not make him that did this physical service perfect as pertaining to what? The conscience. What was going on inside? Deuteronomy 5:29. Still holding it?
Deuteronomy 5:29. Oh, that there was such a heart in them that they would fear me.
Yahweh knew what was going on. And he looked at Israel that could not keep this law and said, if there was such a heart in them. He's not talking about what's going on outside. He's looking right dead inside of for man. Do you understand? And saying, inside, he didn't have the heart. He didn't have the will. He didn't have the stuff to be obedient to the Creator. And the offering of physical sacrifices didn't do the job. It couldn't make him perfect as pertaining to the conscience or the inside of a man. You can look as good as you can look outwardly to me and fool me all the time. But Yahweh can see what's going on inside. And you know what's going on inside. Yeah, I'm looking for that. You understand? Everybody thinks that I'm this or I'm that. And you go home and take back and you lay in that bed in the middle of the night and you know what you're like. There was a problem inside. It was not getting straightened out. Now we'll go back to Jeremiah 30.
Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Now this is a promise from Yahweh. Behold, the days are gonna come, saith Yahweh, I'm gonna make a new covenant. Now here's a point. Here's a point. You know all this 10th Commandment law business? Y'all heard about that in Christianity, didn't you? Oh, come on, you didn't go to a Christian church and not hear about it. 10th Commandment law that was contained within this covenant given at Mount Sinai, you know what? It was only given to the Jews. Anybody in here physically Jewish? Rothsteins or Rosens or I'm not. My heritage is German and Irish. A good combination. German and Irish. I'm not Hebrew. I'm not. And the nation of Israel and the Jews were brought up out of Egypt, camped here at the base of Mount Sinai, and Yahweh gave to the Jews and to the Jews only that covenant. There were no Gentiles. Do you understand? The Norse didn't come down do you understand? My relatives from Germany didn't fly in for the event. Do you understand? There was only Jews standing here that agreed to that covenant. It was to the Jewish nation Yahweh gave that covenant, not to me. There was a physical way of worship or ceremonies given to the Jews to perform in that tabernacle. It was given to the Jews, not to a Gentile, not to me. You understand? And if you're not Jews, you all fall into the other category, Gentile. Understand? Jews were given physical water baptism. Did you know that? Understand? To convert to Judaism today, you know you got to get baptized. True. They were given baptism that they performed in this tabernacle and other places. They were given all of the physical ways of worship. And that was given to Jews and Jews only. Now Yahweh's making a promise to these Jews. They were dead under that covenant, meaning they couldn't keep the covenant. Every time they tried, it just got worse. Every step they took forward, they were taking 3 back. Do you understand? They're making no headway. Okay? And under the law, you couldn't keep it. Do you understand? Sin meant death. Penalty for sin was death. So here's the entire nation of Israel, thinking they're special people because they received that covenant from the Creator himself. But the problem was the covenant that they received from the Creator was their death sentence. They thought they were doing okay before. Now all of a sudden, he lines up the law for them. They can't keep it. Does this make any sense? So Yahweh makes a promise. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh. I'm going to make a new covenant. And boy, did they like hearing that. A new covenant. Read it for me.
That I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of
He's
Judah.
going to make a new covenant with the Hebrew nation. A new one. Read.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them out of by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt.
The covenant that I'm going to make with the Jews is going to be a new covenant. It will not, the word not, N-O-T, it will not be like the old covenant. What was the old covenant like? Physical circumcision, physical ceremonies, physical suppers, physical baptisms, physical sacrifices, and the physical 10 Commandment law. That was the old covenant, and Yahweh said, I'm going to give you a new covenant, and it will not be like the old one. Read.
Which one covenant they break?
Listen, the old one, they broke anyway. Do you understand this? The old one, they couldn't keep anyway. That's why he's giving them a new one. Read.
Although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahweh.
Oh, do you understand? He was a husband. He protected them. He forgave them. He gave them chance after chance after chance. Even though I was a husband unto you, you could not keep that covenant. Read.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of
Now.
Israel. After those days,
There was this old covenant given to Israel. Yahweh promises he's going to make a new covenant. He says, after those days, I'm going to make a new covenant. Not like this old one, not physical ways of worship, not physical water baptisms. Folks, you can jump in a pool of water. Understand? And get yourself wet on the outside. Just as much as you can take that offering for coveting that particular ox up to this tabernacle and place it on an altar. And it looks good. And maybe you're getting something cleaned up on the outside, do you understand? But as much as you jump in water and clean up the outside of your body, it's not doing anything for the inside, or it could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience. Israel was dead inside. Read.
after those days, saith Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward part.
Now he's going to make a new covenant. And he's going to put his law, Yahweh's law, spirit law, where?
Their inward part.
In their inward parts. Remember, the outward stuff didn't do anything for the inside. Now Yahweh's going to take his law, put it right in them, so that the inside can change. Does this make any sense? Read.
And write it in their heart.
Mm-hmm. The old law was written on tables of stone. The new law is going to be written right within a person's heart and in their mind. Oh, it's a whole new story than going and jumping in a pool of water. Do you understand this? They've been jumping in and out of water for thousands of years and it hasn't cleaned up the inside of anybody yet. My goodness, when you go into the shower, you got enough sense to take a bar of soap. Does just standing under the water do anything? You take a bar of soap, some of you got the loofah pads, you're getting the dead skin and the brushes on the, you understand, you're scrubbing up. You understand? And then you think, oh gee, I'm gonna jump in a pool of water, do you understand? Or get a little sprinkle on my forehead and that's gonna clean up the, it doesn't even make any sense. Breathe.
And will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people.
I need Ezekiel 36. I'm out of here in about
What?
I'm just trying to get this set up first.
Ezekiel 36:24. For I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land.
Read.
Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and ye shall be clean.
Now the water, oh, there's so much. The water that we're going to get sprinkled with is not physical water, folks. Right. You understand? Can you wait? Let's just do this. Let's just do this. Get John, the 15th chapter, and put your finger in there. All right? Get me Luke. We'll get Luke. Matthew 3:11. Okay, now, I need everybody with me to try to get these points across as quickly as I can. Look at folks. Israel had a problem, they couldn't keep the law. In the prophets, Yahweh said, I promise you I'll get a new one. I'll give you a new one. Right. But before they could get the new one, he had to do away with the old one. Right. He needed somebody that could keep that covenant, to fulfill it or to bring it to an end. He searched heaven and earth and could find no one. So he came and did it himself. He came in that sacrificial body for a reason. And the reason was to fulfill, you understand, that old law, this old covenant, to wipe it out, to take it out of the way, to remove it, so that he could usher in the new covenant. And the world has got this thing backwards. Right? Example, Joshua, the very first thing he does in his ministry, he goes to his cousin John, John the Baptist. John the Baptist is out, you understand, performing baptisms on the Jews, physical baptism, getting them wet in the Jordan River. He called it the baptism unto repentance. All of Israel could not keep that. They could not keep that law, none of them. That meant death, not physical death, death within them. They were dead inside. You understand? Now, baptism, getting immersed in water. The word baptism means to be immersed. It doesn't necessarily mean water. It just means getting immersed. And what he would do is the people would come to John. He would ask, have you sinned? They said yes. When they said yes, they were dead. They were already dead. They admitted they're dead. You understand? Now, they're dead. And then John would take them and dump them in the Jordan River. He would bury them in the water. Well, isn't that what you do with a dead person? Or do you let them hang out on the street corner? You take a dead person and you bury them, immerse them. You're used to doing it in ground. John was doing it in water. So all of Israel's coming to him. Have you sinned? Yes, I'm dead. Buried them in the water. That's what John's out there doing. Now here comes Joshua, who was the word Yahweh himself in the physical body. He comes unto John. John goes to him. Have you sinned? Joshua goes, no. He was the only one that could say that. No. So John says to him, I have need to be baptized of you, Joshua. And he wasn't talking about getting dunked in water. I need to be baptized by you. You're the one I've been waiting for. You're the Lamb of God. You're the one that's going to take away the sin of the world from the inside. You understand? You baptize me. But Joshua forbade him saying, you understand? It wasn't going to happen. Read it for me. Quick.
We'll pick it up at 16.
And real quick.
And Joshua answering said unto him, suffer it to be so now.
Joshua goes, just do it, John. Suffer it to be so now. Read, why?
For thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness.
For thus it becometh us to fulfill, John. The word fulfill means to bring to an end, to stop it, to complete it, to finish it. Right. Watch. There were baptisms going on all the time. 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter, Paul reads that when the children of Israel came up out of Egypt, they were baptized in that cloud and in that sea. Do you understand? The whole earth was inundated with water at the beginning of creation. Let's talk about Noah. When Yahweh decided to cleanse the earth, he buried the whole earth in water. And that word water broke from the heavens and from underneath, and they're just slammed up in between it all, buried in that water. Baptism coming up out of, you understand, the Red Sea. The priests were baptized in that laver here in this tabernacle and also in Solomon's temple.
Right.
There was the baptism of the sacrifices also in both locations.
Right.
John the Baptist is older than Yahshua the Messiah by 6 months. And so he's out there performing baptisms or baptizing all of Israel before Yahshua even enters his ministry. Baptism had been going on for 4,000 years by the time Yahshua came and stood with John at the Jordan. Do you understand? So then when John said, I need to be baptized with you, Yahshua goes, suffer it to be so now, John, because for me, my job is to fulfill this baptism. My job is to finish this baptism. My job is to bring this physical water baptism to an end. You understand that? And for that reason, Yahshua was baptized in that river Jordan. Now Christianity has turned that story completely 180 degrees out of phase. And they told you and they told me that Yahshua got baptized, you understand, to institute or begin physical water baptisms so that everybody hereafter or after Jesus or Yahshua should get baptized in water.
Right.
How could he begin or start or institute physical water baptism when it had been going on for 4,000 years? And all of the ordinances line up that self-same way.
Right.
Do you understand? He did away with this physical baptisms so we could be baptized in living water, not polluted water that you got out here in the creation that didn't do you any good anyway. Do you understand? 15:3, John. Then we're out. I promised you 5, I'm on 4.
So in 15:3. Now you are clean through the word, which I have.
No, we are clean. We need to get cleaned up on the inside.
Right.
And there's only one that can clean you up on the inside, and that is the word of Yahweh himself. And it is through the preaching of his gospel or his word, sitting under his word, will have a profound effect on you. Oh. You understand that? He did away with the physical walking. Let's get away with that. Let's fulfill it. Let's bring that to an end. So we can usher in the new covenant or usher in the covenant that will clean you up on the inside. And the words that I speak, they are spirit. They are life. They are the cleansing to clean your soul. Matthew 28.
Matthew 28:19. Go you therefore and teach all nations.
No, Yahshua was given commandments to his apostles. He says, go out. You go out and teach. He didn't say go out and set up a church. He didn't say go on out and set up a priesthood. He didn't say go on out and take all their money, get on TV and cry, you understand? And teach them ordinances or ways of service or how to cut up Wonder Bread. He said, you go out therefore and teach what? My purpose and plan. And you didn't get it out there. Read.
Baptizing them in the name
And what I want you to do is baptize the people. And so all the Christianity goes, Jesus said, get them wet, never did. He said, you baptize them. Baptism means immersion. Are we supposed to baptize them in water? What does he read it?
Baptizing them in the name
You baptize them not in water, but baptize them in the name. Baptize them in the name of the Father, the name of the Son, and the name of the Holy Spirit. And for most of us, I know for me, I hadn't even heard the names till I walked in this room. And that was the baptism that he commissioned Israel to do. You get out there, you tell them the will of the Father, Yahweh, and you let them know that Yahweh is their salvation. That's what you want to baptize them in, the truth. Now that's the difference between the old covenant and the new covenant. And he has already fulfilled that for you. It's done. Now all you got to do is sit down, listen, come into an understanding so that he can usher in his own spirit right within your heart and your mind. And thank you for the turn.
So I really appreciate your patience. I didn't expect it to go all that long. Again, I truly appreciate your patience, but this is what a celebration of Diane's life meant to me. And so this is what I did. So thank you very much for putting up with my workings here. I really appreciate it. And if anyone has anything they want to offer up or say or whatever, anything on their minds, you're willing to do that, just raise your hand or however, and we'll acknowledge you.
We could start with the family members. If they have anything they wanted to say about this event.
Yep,
Doug?
we can.
You're still muted, Doug, if you want to speak. You're okay? Okay. Anybody wants to speak, just put your hand up. Put your picture up, put your hand up. I enjoyed how you put it together with the places from the time you met her in the class, Carl, and
Yep.
how you traveled with her to all the different places. I forgot how many places you went. But okay.
Rick.
To say something.
Go ahead, Rick.
I'm the guy that Carl mentioned that Rick Enzenroth that Diane took under her wing, and nothing could be truer. I came into class in '88, and Diane and I just bonded. It was just a bond. I thought of her as a mother. I stayed there for I was in class for about 4 years, and I worked construction, and I was going to be going to Milwaukee for 3 to 4 months to build an apartment building, but we were going to live on site in a house that was already there. And before I moved there, she knew I'd be going to Milwaukee's class. She took me down there and introduced me, but I know it was for her. She wanted to make sure that I'd be all right there. And I was. Shortly after that is when the split was obvious to me, and I got scared. And I ran. It is what it is. But every 2 or 3 years, I would have to go out and visit with Diane. That was that bond. And she never scolded me, never said anything bad, or said you got to get back here and all that kind of stuff. No. She showed the love that patience is and long suffering. The last time I went out there, it was after about 10 years. I told her, I says, I'll be back. I just don't know when. Well, in less than a year, I was back. Got to see her smiling face. She was very happy that I was back. And I remember after class, we were talking, and I said to Carl, it's like I never left. Carl says, you really never did. And that's what Spirit's all about. And I love Diane. Our relationship grew. She became more of a sister. And she was a light that's shown in the darkness, folks. She's beautiful inside and out. And I guess I'll close with that. Thank you, Carl. This was great. I'm done.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Someone asked about how do people raise their hands. Jessica has her hand up and Sue has her hand up. I don't know how to do that, but those guys do. So,
I still
Jessica-
can't figure it out.
yeah, but Jessica, go ahead and have something to say. Or, oh, Susie, you're starting. Go ahead.
Yeah, Carl, I was going to say, you need to have your camera on in order to raise your hand, and it down under your options for reactions, you should have the ability in your, there should be a line of options, participants, chat, reactions. If you do reactions, you'll see something that says you can raise your hand.
Bonnie, I
Yep,
found
I
out
just
that
saw
that's
it
Bonnie.
myself. I'll put a
Okay.
thumbs up to show you. It was right like you said.
Are people, and you can see other
It
things
says
like
Bonnie I.
Karen and Kelly are
Rick.
putting up hearts. There's other things that you can put on the screen as well, but you have to have your camera on to do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just have a couple of things to say as well. Most of you know or know from what Carl has gone through that Diane has been in Bobby and my world for a very long time as well, from back in the early 70s. And I'm kind of channeling Bob, I guess, today. But I did want to say that in thinking about how he would describe these things, many of you know that he liked to paint. He was an artist and liked to paint, especially in oil colors. And he would say that with the loss of Diane, we have lost some color in our spiritual landscape because she was such a social person, passion for the gospel, love to have people around, love to tell the stories and to listen and chat about the gospel with everybody. And so I think both with the loss of Bob and with her, our spiritual landscape has dimmed a little bit. And that's when you have somebody like Diane who has such a presence, such a profound presence among us, to have them no longer be here, we all feel that loss. So we miss her and have her in our thoughts, but Yahweh's obviously working with something, and it was their time when it came and will be for all of us when that happens. But there was a great love of our love in our life that is no longer with us, and we all feel that. So I'll hand it back over.
Hi, this is Deb. We didn't have Roberts. So in my experience in class and the time that I've been here, there were 4 people who I always joined together. Carl and Diane, Bobby and Sue. And going back over old pictures, you always see the 4 of them together hanging out. I came into class, and Bobby was my dean, and I can never truly express the impact that Bobby had in my life and what he offered to me through the gospel. But the one thing that Bobby taught me was to stand on my own 2 feet and to get a witness for everything that I learned and to keep the gospel simple. I was in Rhode Island for a couple of years and then moved to Colorado, where Diane became my dean. Not only was Diane my dean, but she was my boss. I worked for her. She hired me to work in her accounting department. And Diane was always a fair and equitable boss. She always encouraged her employees to advance in their knowledge and their understanding. No one ever felt threatened because I knew her personally, because they knew that she was a just person. She would pick me up every morning and take me to work and drop me off at night because I didn't have a car. First time I met Diane was a year before I moved there. And unfortunately, I should have shared the picture of the original class, which was Carl and Diane and Sandy and Jack and Dave Oyster, when they helped me go to the airport. And I said to them at that time, I'm going to be back. And of course, they thought that I really wasn't telling the truth, but I knew I was coming back. And within 6 months later, I moved back to Colorado. And my experience with Diane over the years is one thing I will tell you, I knew from the beginning of my time there, is that Diane truly loved Carl, and it was always her desire to be with him as a partner. And she told me the story about Dr. Kinley saying that they didn't have to get married, but they needed to take care of one another. And I can see as the years have progressed that that was truly their commitment to one another. I knew Carl back then in Colorado. The first speaker I ever experienced on the floor was Carl. And this was just before he moved to Colorado. And he talked about the tabernacle pattern, which I never forgot. Diane, through the time that I got to spend with her, she taught me how not to put anybody on the pedestal and to recognize that all of us have flaws and that Yahshua is the only true salvation for any of us. Carl mentioned Tennyson Avenue. I can't even tell you of all the wonderful times and gatherings that took place in that house that he showed you. At one point in Denver, we all lived on Tennyson Avenue, a couple of blocks or 10 blocks apart from each other. But on Tennyson Avenue is where we all came together as a family, and Diane was instrumental. She was like our mother hen, and she used to call us Boys Town because none of us had parents or relatives that lived in the area. And we're all like lost little children. But she was an amazing nurturer, and Diane was always one to encourage, and she was understanding, and she was patient, and she was above all things kind. To see her with Callie only reminds me of her nurturing nature. If time had allowed, she would have been a mother. She would have been an incredible mother. I cannot even express in totality what Diane offered me in my time with her. And as a teacher, she was an amazing teacher. And what I loved about Diane was one of the things that Bobby said to me, which was 1 Corinthians, I believe, 3:13, and to keep in mind the simplicity of Yahshua the Messiah and not to let anyone ever detract you from that. And Diane taught that gospel in such simplicity. Yahshua gave her a gift to break the thing down so that we could understand it and hear it and recognize the true gospel of Yahshua Messiah. I loved that she always went back to the foundation, to our roots, and she kept us in line. And I will miss her because for me, I know that may sound silly because they're not that many years older than me. Bobby and Sue and Carl and Diane and Dennis and Rick, they are my elders, and they are the ones who are my eyewitnesses they were the ones who met Dr. Kinley, who talked to him, and it is a loss for me of a mentor and a witness to this gospel. And Carl, I just want to say thank you so very, very much for everything that you shared today. It was such a beautiful expression of all of Diane and who she was and all that she gave to those around her. So thank you.
Carl, you are muted.
Carl, you're muted. You're okay with that? We got some hands up.
Okay, I'm back. I lost internet, and so I just want to say Jessica's had her hand up back when I lost internet. So Jessica, go ahead. You have something to say if you want.
Hi. You know, Diane was a really, I know everybody knows that Diane was a special person, but there aren't many people that I can say that I've ever been around where there hasn't been some level of guard. And I remember Diane from when I was a kid in Green Bay. And there aren't, you know, a whole lot of memories from 13, 14, 15 when it comes to class. But I remember you guys from that. And then to go to Oceanside, the first class that I visit while I was in the Army that I didn't know anything about, and walk into a room full of people I knew from before I ever left. Diane was one of those people that she didn't know strangers. You talk with her and she had a way to make you feel seen, that you matter, and she just had a warmth that was just genuine. And I'm grateful that I got to be present for that, even for a small time. That's all.
Thank you, Jessica. I remember when I left the first time my internet that Terry Welch's hand was up. I'm trying to get in some kind of order. So Terry, if you want to have something to say.
Sure, absolutely. I was just thinking that in all that you did, first of all, that celebration of her life was very, very well done. I think it was a great kind of a relevant history, and I appreciated it, and I'm sure others did too. The thing that impressed me to say was that Diane was a great teacher in the class. And I know many brethren throughout the school loved and respected her as a person, but as a teacher. And if I recall correctly, I believe Dr. Kinley said that he appreciated her, valued her as a teacher or minister also. And and I was thinking back, you know, my wife, Janice, I, and our children loved Diane, and you too, Carl, and really respected her commitment to the teaching itself and to being a teacher that would communicate things well. So that's basically it. I'll be short, not give a whole lot of memories, but we appreciate. Love Diane and the brethren. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks. Brooke Fraser.
Thank you.
I'll try to be relatively brief, but I was trying to think today about some of my memories because I just feel like I have so many. And I came into class when I was 11 years old. And at that time, I, at that time, and you know, throughout my whole life, I always felt of Diane that she was like an aunt to me. Like another mom, but like an aunt, I guess. And when I would talk about her to my friends, I called her my Aunt Diane. And I remember I was thinking of like different conferences and trips we took in the car together. And I remember it's growing up in class and like grilling her and asking her, like Amy, Julie, and I would be in the car together with like Sue Ellen or Sue Amy and Diane. And we would ask like the hardest questions, you know, that adolescents could ask, you know, growing up. And so I have really fond memories of Diane just being able to handle all of our drama and all of our questions. And as I grew up, I felt that I would still lean on her. And I guess when, you know, we talk about the attributes of her personality, one of the things that was just open-heartedness and being receptive and also not judging. And I felt like there were times in my life when I was younger and then until today, since I've been in class for, you know, I don't even know, 36, 37, whatever, or no, 40 years. There were times where I was struggling with one thing or another. And you know, Carl, because I would call you guys in California and I would sit up in my bedroom where I am now and I would talk to you on the phone. And I knew that I could always, always go to you and to her about anything. And there was never any judgment. All there was 100% support. And there are so few people that you can find that through. And so when I sit here today trying to just keep myself together, that's what strikes me the most is just that constant comfort, open arms, and non-judgmental attitude that both Diane and you also, Carl, have had. And I'm sorry, because now I'm just sobbing. But throughout my whole life, the tribute was absolutely beautiful. And I thank you for the time that it took you to put that together. And that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Sasha?
I will say a little bit later because I know that Jerry has been waiting for a long time and Trick as well. So I'll talk
Oh,
after.
I didn't know the order. So go ahead, Jerry. I'll get back to you, Sasha.
I said I could wait, but that's okay.
That's
You know,
all right.
I'm one of the ones that benefited from that first seminar of Diane in Denver. I came into class really basically around 1980. And we lived, you know, a good hour from the Los Angeles class where I came into class. So we really didn't have a lot of friends and people in class. I would go to class and I became a part of class, but I hadn't really appreciated the brotherhood. And we went to a Denver seminar as well as my first convention, the Western Regional Convention. And at both of those events, Diane made it a special occasion to spend time with me and ask me if I had questions and made me feel so welcome. And she's always made me feel that way my whole life. And they welcomed us, Carl and Diane, to their home in Wisconsin, that beautiful remodeled home. And they've welcomed us many times to their home in Fallbrook. And the thing that always caught me the most about Diane, we wanted to move in the early 80s, 82. We decided we need to move after going to Denver and stuff to a class where we could have intimate relationships with people in class. And it was between Denver and Green Bay with Dennis and San Diego. And we just we all later in life, we were amazed at how Yahweh brought us here to San Diego and then brought Carl and Diane and Dennis both to where we were at the right time that we needed them. And Diane's excitement for this teaching has just been contagious over the years. And I just could so appreciate what Brooke was just saying before, because you could talk to Diane about anything personally, and you never felt like she was up here, way up above, even though she would give you good spiritual advice. You always felt like, oh, I've been through that, you know, I know exactly how you feel, or I had this type of situation, and always never made you feel like something was wrong with you or something, you know, that it wasn't something common to all man. She had the ability to put you at ease to where you could talk to her about anything. And I miss her greatly. I loved her, and thank you.
Rick?
Yes, I will be brief. I am from the same small village as Diane, and I now have no one else from my village other than one sister who's in the other camp now. And I loved talking with Diane about Syracuse University basketball. She was just a huge fan. And brought us out there to California for a bowl game. But Syracuse University played football last year. Carl and my wife Peggy and Diane and I went. It was the first bowl I ever went to. And we had such fun, and we had such a good time in our trip out there. And I've only been in class 50 years now, but I've lost so many people who were dear to me and close to me. And now I've lost one who was the dearest, one of the very dearest to me, and one of my very favorite speakers in the whole institute. And I think about her all the time. It's hard. It must be very hard for you, Carl. I'm with you, brother. And I thank you for all this. I loved her. And I still love her.
Yeah, I know that. I do know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sasha?
Margaret was before me, Carl.
Oh, great. Margaret, good to see you.
Oh, hi, Carl. Oh, I'm a little choked up right now, but Diane was my first dean, and I learned so much from her. And I'm just going to repeat what everybody else has said. She was a very kind-hearted, soft-spoken person. And I remember saying to Diane, I said, you know, I want to learn how to give a lecture. And she asked me, she says, well, what are you interested in? And I said, well, I like the covenants. She said, you do? And I said, yes. So she gave me some information on the covenants, and had me studying. I would call her and talk to her a little bit about it. And she'd give me more information. And I remember one of the first times she called me on the floor, I didn't do the covenants. I think I talked about everything that she taught me before. And I was saying, oh, I guess it's time for me to get down. And I said, and so the next speaker could talk, and they said, class is over. And I said, what? I remember you all being there and laughing at me so hard. But my last conversation with Diane was at Chicago. They called me on the floor. I was very nervous. I didn't feel well. There was a lot of things going on with me, and I felt I did a horrible job. And she came up to me and she said, well, are you okay? She said, is your kidney okay? And I said, well, why would you think my kidney's not okay? Because I did have kidney cancer and the right kidney was removed. And I said, well, Diane, I'm fine. You know, how are you? And we just hugged each other. She will be so dearly missed. I think about her often. And Douglas and I were talking, and, you know, Douglas was born in class, and he used to, as he would come to class as a young kid, a baby, he would mimic Diane. He really loved Diane. He admired her. And he would follow her from one end to the classroom. And, you know, Diane's a pacer. And he would walk to the other end. And one time, Diane saw him and called him up to the class. And I'm thinking, well, he can barely walk and talk. And she asked him, who is this? And he said, Moses. And, you know, he just, she would watch him for me sometimes. And he just, they were very close. And I have a beautiful picture of her with my youngest, Donovan, and she's just hugging him so dearly. But boy, she was I just loved her. And I love you too, Carl. And I know how you feel. It's tough losing a spouse, someone you've been with for so long. But Diane was, oh, you know, just a comfort. And she comforted me. And she's just going to be dearly missed. But we know that we all have a time when it's time for us to go. But, you know, as far as this teaching was concerned, she was the best teacher I ever had. And she'll be missed dearly. And I'm going to stop rattling on, but love you, Carl. And I love
you, Margaret.
Diane. And call me anytime.
Yeah, you take care. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you three think is next? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm probably next.
Okay, go ahead, Sasha.
So, and I will be really brief. I know that, you know, the time, because of the time. So thank you for the memorial. When I came to class 30 years ago, a little bit more, Diane was our dean. So I learned a lot from, what's that?
Diane, put the picture.
Oh,
You got to
somebody-
mute yourself, Roxanne. Yeah.
So Diane was our dean. So Helen, my wife, and I learned a lot from Diane. Also, in the culture I came from, when there are adults and children in the room, and there are services or things are done for adults, usually the children are ignored. But Diane was a wonderful teacher for the kids, as was already mentioned. So she taught my daughter and my son and Kelly and other children in our class. So it was great. One of the episodes which I remember really stuck with me for the rest of my life, really. It happened, as you, Carl, mentioned, when my wife died in a car accident, which was 20, almost 27 years ago. And people the next day, the day after next, people, the neighbors, people from class were coming to my house and expressing their condolences and hugging me. And Diane, she came, she hugged me, and she kissed my cheek. And this touch, I cannot explain how and why, but it made such an impact on me. I felt so much love and compassion and care and hope, all in this touch, that it just stays with me. So thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Reba?
Yes. Can
Oh,
you hear
yeah.
me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since you talked about that seminar, I'm just going to tell you this one thing because there's no way I could begin to tell you the things that Diane and I shared together that I'd like to share with you all. But when we put that seminar together in Denver, we called it the Power of Unity. And we decided to start planning that seminar almost a year ahead of time before it finally took place, because it gave us something to do. It gave us something to look forward to. And during that time, Diane had gone to the hospital for her back. I don't remember what they did to it, but she was in there quite a while. And I would run up there daily and go, okay, now what do we do? And she gave me a list of things that you have to contact these people. You got to stay up on this one. Are we getting our advertising out? How about the posters? Did you get those printed up? And then I'd run around like a mad woman and check, check, check. Then I come back like the next day, go, okay, now what do I do? So I was her legs and she was the brain. And those were good times. But yeah, not only was she a good pal to me, I can appreciate that saying where they say that your soul is knit together. A lot of times I could tell she was thinking about me, and I'd call her, and it was just that kind of vibe, you know. But one of the last good laughs that we've had together, I was out to her house and we were watching an old movie, and Diane was starting to fall asleep, and on the movie, it was almost like a big bell, like it was a ding dong, and it kind of woke her up. She goes, "Is somebody at the front door?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Candygram." And that's just for some of us older people that might be able to catch that. It's a throwback from Saturday Night Live, but boy, my gosh, we just laughed and laughed over that. Now I think I'm dating myself, but yeah, Diane.
Land shark.
Yeah, right. Sure, we're going to miss her, but she also said to me, just be happy for me, please, because I don't have to suffer anymore. And she truly did suffer a lot with all the different ailments that she had go awry in that little physical body of hers. And I am happy for her. And I hope you are happy for her too. She was a wonderful person, an incredible Yashwan, and I loved her dearly, as I still love Carol. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Reba. Karen or Callie, whoever's hand is there.
It's Callie.
Andrew.
Sneak attack.
And me.
My mom's off to the side.
Um, one of my first memories is the telephone in the bathroom.
I think they put it there just for you.
That was
And
there because of the 1971 convention in the Beverly Hills Hilton. There was a telephone in the bathroom. And so I thought if I ever build a house, there's going to be a telephone in the bathroom. Go ahead.
I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I loved going over to your house so that I could use it to call home.
Yep. I got those calls, and Karen.
And sometimes my parents would be at the house, so I would leave a voicemail. Hi, I'm in the bathroom at Diane and Carl's house. It's so great. We're having a good time. Stuff like that. And when she would call, sometimes I'd ask, hopefully, if she was in the bathroom calling me.
Only the richest kind.
I loved exploring on her tractor and with Buddy and Babe. And going to Culver's and Michael's after class. She would treat me like the most important person in the world and talk to me and listen to whatever I had to say and tell me all these cool stories about the cabin or the lake that she used to go to as a little girl and how she went fishing with her grandpa. And she was so excited because she caught a fish. And she told him, I caught this fish with a net. He just swam right in. And her grandma was laughing because it was blind. So, of course, she was able to just scoop it right up. It was an old dying fish, but for some reason I thought that was so cool. And her brothers, how they were always teasing her and making fun of her, and how her older brother Doug tried to get her in trouble by writing on the wall in cursive, but she was like, I don't even know cursive, it could have been me. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have older brothers. They're so stinky and nasty and mean. and being in basketball and basketball games, like Rick mentioned, she likes Syracuse. I didn't really watch any of that stuff with her, but I think she came to my games a whole lot. And even though I sucked, she still would cheer me on and loved going and would make me feel good. She always liked taking me shopping. And she told me that her mom bought her clothes until the day she died. And so she wasn't going to have any fuss from me. That we were going to do that too. And it was so much fun. I felt like a model. And just felt loved. And visiting her at Pleasant Company and All American Girl dolls and all that stuff, but she taught me that it was okay to cry. It was okay to be myself. And I just had to keep talking to Joshua, and he would show me things when I was ready. And that was something really great about her, that everybody's talked about, that she doesn't judge people, that she's always been very loving and kind, and always focused on the love. And even though there was probably lots of stressful and tumultuous times going on around the school and in other places, I never felt that from her. And whenever big questions came up, like, she would encourage my mom and dad to talk to me, but not to like make it too much, just to give me enough in time, you know, like, just, I felt very nurtured and protected and loved. She'd encourage me to pout every time we go somewhere, and I'd say that I wanted something. She would be like, "Oh, now you can do better than that." so, then I'd start going, "Oh, could I have it?" And she's like, "No, now come on, I trained you better than that. Really give it to me." And so she would just tease me and just be goofy and just, like I said, encourage who I was, but also make me think. She helped raise me and helped me grow up and helped me mature and come out of myself and recognize that, like, my parents are normal people with human being thoughts and emotions. They're not just my parents, and that class is real, that Yahweh's real, not class, Yahweh's real, that class is important. And that's not to say that she's important in reality. I know that Yahshua put her in that place to help me because he knows what each of us needs. And I'm so thankful that he, he gave me such a precious gift. Kids class was amazing. She would give us time to learn about Moses and Noah, and we would each get to hold the pointer. Oh, me and Mark would fight over the pointer. Because the pointer was obviously the most important thing at that time, but yet and still, the things that I learned made sense and mattered to me when I could truly connect with them. So I'm grateful that I was given the time, as was mentioned. And she always would say, start with Moses, and emphasize that we bring the children up out of Egypt, that you could go anywhere. And yeah.
It's true.
And she always told me the story that Deb mentioned about Dr. Kinley telling her about Carl, that they needed to take care of each other. And I don't know, I just, their love and their relationship were end goals for me. That just, if that isn't the type of love that I can have, I don't need it. I just appreciated how much they supported each other in the gospel and in their physical lives. And if that's ever something that I have, that's what I would want. And so I'm so thankful to Yahshua for giving you both into my life. Thank you.
And we're both still in your life. That precious gift is still there. I still talk about us and not me. I can't help it. It's a part of me. Sharon? iPhone, Sharon, are you there? Linda?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry about that. Oh, boy. Diane, was so helpful to me, as it was for, I know, many people that are on this call and has been viewing us on this YouTube channel. I'm sorry, I'm very emotional right now. But you have to say something about a soul that will drop everything in their life, that will get in their car and drive 12 hours straight, come see a brethren that has just lost their husband of 13 years with 3 small children. To be with her, to help her through the worst nightmare that she has ever experienced in her lifetime. And to stay with her for 2 whole weeks. And to help her through that devastating nightmare that I had to go through. And I'm telling you guys that Yahshua sent her to me by the grace of Yahshua. And since that time, Diane and I have bonded by that experience. And from that time on, many things have happened in our lives. Especially hers. And I reached out to her when it came down to Vanderkamp. And I encouraged her so hard to come, please be with us. And she did. And that was the beginning of our resurrection, hers and mine. And we reunited that bondness. Yahshua is just amazing. A bond that cannot be broken. Diane is a beacon that will lighten many lives through her lifetime. and a light that will never, ever go out. Not now, not ever. Not in any of our hearts, not in Carl's heart, not in Kelly's life, not in any of our lives. Because it was Yahshua in that soul that we all know for a surety that she is in righteousness, she is in peace, she is in joy in that Holy Spirit. And I have no doubt whatsoever in my heart. And that is what keeps me in peace. Although I miss her so much, as we all do. All praise to Yahshua. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Linda?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, first of all, Carl, your presentation and this celebration of Diane was so beautiful and heartfelt. And I could cry just saying that. Your life with her was amazing. And I'm so glad that you had that. And you guys had your life together and all the things that you've accomplished and just everything about it is so beautiful. And I'm just, I don't know. People wish for that in their life. So I'm glad you were able to have that. And we're so lucky that you picked California to come and retire to, because we got the pleasure of getting to know you and getting to be in a class with you guys, and you spread your spiritual wealth to us and your love and your compassion and your companionship. And I'm so glad that Yahshua put it in your hearts to come here so that we got a chance to be a part of your life as well. And I just wanted to say it's been an honor to know you and Diane, of course, and be a part of the class with her and you. And she was extremely gifted with the ability to preach the gospel in its simplicity, but also however deep you wanted to go in the gospel. So that's a gift, really, to not be over people's heads, to keep it simple, because that's what this gospel is, simplicity. And it's not about, your academia or anything like that. It's the preaching of the gospel of Yahshua and its simplicity. And she just was given a charge of that in her presentations always. But she always, would start out and lay foundations and then just go deep on things. And it was just she was the perfect teacher. And I know that everyone else agrees with that too. And she dedicated her life to preaching the gospel. And that's an amazing thing. And that's Yahshua. That's Yahshua, and I know we have to live in this life, but everything about the gospel she was about. And people, whoever just said that Sharon, that she drove all the way across the country to comfort the brethren. And she would go to seminars all the time. She was like so wanting to be with the brethren and wanting to preach the gospel and wanting to see everyone. And she just had a love of everything. And she was a person full of wisdom. And people all say the same thing. She had wisdom, she had great understanding and great knowledge of the spiritual things of Yahshua. And she had a fervent love of the truth. And it was always in the forefront of how she lived her life. And you too, of course. And she's been such an important part to so many of our lives. And her absence is felt by all of us every day. And she was very loved by all of us. And she's so greatly missed. And she had a beautiful soul. And we all saw it. And we all saw Yahshua manifesting himself through her. And that's such a witness and a testimony to how Yahshua is real. And I love you, Carl. And we're here for you whenever you need us. And, it's a big loss, and it must be really hard for you. And I'm so sorry that you're going through it. And anyways, and Dave wanted to say a few things, if it's okay.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I echo a lot of the things that everybody said, and especially Linda. I was lucky enough to come into this class with such great teachers, Diane, Carl, Dennis. There were so many good teachers in this class. I was very lucky to come into this class. And the thing I loved about Diane, I never saw her with her fervent preaching like what you showed, but what I always loved about Diane when she did get up on the floor was me being only in this teaching for about 13 years. And I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 years ago now. She would always get up on the floor and start with the simple and get you that foundation, like Linda said. And then I felt really good about that, because being new in class, it made me feel good that, she's laying a foundation and giving you that understanding. So later on, she can go deep. So yes, I very much appreciated that. And one last quick thing I want to share with everybody is, I know Yahweh brought me into this teaching. We're all brought in by our Creator, but a little story here. Dr. Linda Volpe was wanting to call me. We had a relationship in the 70s, and we lost each other for years. And she was debating back and forth whether she would call me or not. And she asked Diane's advice, and Diane said, you never know what Yahshua's plan is. So for both that being brought into this teaching and being brought back to Linda, I very much appreciate it. And I feel that she was a part of that. And I know it was Yahweh bringing me in, but she was the part that kind of got the ball rolling. So thank you. And like Linda said, anything, Carl, you need, we're here for you, man. Take care.
Yeah, thank you both for that. Thank you. Bob White and Roxanne Rousseau window.
Roxy's here in Florida.
Right.
And ironically, we watched that tape this morning before we went to class. So we got a second.
Did you watch the
Yes.
whole thing?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a
And
good class.
and the thing of it is, I mean, it was just a witness. If you were able to show the whole thing, is that your wife Diane and Bobby were given extraordinary gifts. And what I've seen in the 49 years of it in class is Yahweh used those two people to bring a lot of people past the cross.
Yeah.
Into a new age, into a new way of thinking, into a new life. And Doc said it was a living gospel, and they manifested it. I want to share just a little story. We had a thing, we called it the Rochester thing around Christmas time, and we did that for a few years out in the airport in Rochester and at the Holiday Inn.
Yep.
And Diane was present at one of those, and a bully got on the floor and was nasty. And she blurted out just like a knee-jerk reaction, and everybody was startled that Diane spoke or said something.
Yes.
And of course, after class, everybody wanted to know, well, a lot of people wanted to know what she saw or why she blurted out like that. So her room filled up really quick. And I sat down on the bed beside her, and people were sitting all over the floor and against up on the radiator and the furniture, and the room was full. And they asked her, and she didn't engage. All she did was comfort them. All she did was impart hope to them, and all she did was give them more gospel. And after about 2 hours, people left, and they were comforted. You could see it in their faces. She had an uncanny ability to just soothe another soul. And she certainly did mine. She was a great sister. So turn it back to you. Thank you, Carl.
Very familiar with that whole situation. That lingered for a while.
Mm.
Me too.
Yes, Rox?
Oh, I am not good at this, but this is one thing I will say about Diane, that the scripture that says to love Yahweh with all your heart and with all your mind and to love the brethren. And that's what I saw in Diane. Just summed it all up, was I always saw love.
Thank you.
I'm not good at this, so that's
Steve or Karen, the Madison branch there?
It's me.
Yep.
I never could convert her away from those Denver Broncos to a Packer fan. Never got her to root for the Badgers instead of Syracuse. I was just laughing before when all this started. I'm emotional, but so here we go, Carl. So many things. You know, listening to Callie. Um, it was the four of us that raised her. I can't do this. So many thoughts. She came here. I think it was, you said 86. That's you got married. That's when
Yep.
she moved here. And we made Madison or Mount Horeb the class. At the time we were Mount Horeb Madison. And the people that were here, Joel and Judy and you and Diane and Karen and I. And that might have been, and Kobe was here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other people, but we used to go every other weekend up to Green Bay, and we liked it. We'd go into Green Bay one weekend and stay back home and have a Friday night class in Madison and or Mount Horeb at the time. And she said, "Well, if I come here, we're going to have regular class." It was almost a mutiny. What do you mean we can't just go up every other weekend? You know, she goes, "Well, you can if you want, but we're having class here." You know, that's how she answered it. It wasn't, you can't do that. She just said, we're going to have classes on Friday, every Friday. And we all said, well, we're sure not going to do that. For sure, we're not going to support it. The first Friday we were here, and the next Friday we were here again. But I just think it was funny how she was right. We needed to have a class here, and look how the class grew, you know. And so many things go through my head. I didn't like getting on the floor because I'd cry. And I moderated, though. I didn't mind moderating. I can remember being, when the scripture reading started, our scripture reading today will be Romans 1 and 16. That's, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Yahshua the Messiah. I knew I was going to be the first speaker, because that was when she was just going to toss all the people don't speak up. And of course, she start with me. So I'd have to get up there and not be ashamed of the little bit that I did know and try to impart something to people. And she did it for us. She had that heart. Rick talked about it. I just never saw a mean bone in there. You know, you wish you would have told her more. What a wuss. I can't help myself. Diane, I remember it would come up where somebody was going to do the tabernacle and Diane would do the tabernacle. And, you know, I would be asking questions like, you know, I never even took biology. You know, I don't know any of this stuff, any of these words. And she'd say, I never did either. I got a children's book. Cut it out. And she helped us, Karen and I, to get a children's book so we could learn the parts of the body, so we could give that lecture. She had a way. When you guys bought the house out in California, you guys came over and you were always over at the house. We we shared a lot of meals in those days. We were the only ones left in Mount Horeb. And we bought a house. So you're gonna move? I'm like, we'll see if you can move, you know. Yeah. Just like Jonah, you know, we'll see if you can move. I thought, good luck with that. You know, I kept thinking, who's gonna be the dean? You know. And they started doing remodeling and different things, and Mel and Vicky were out there, and they were living there for a while, and I just didn't see it really happening. And then she said, "Well, you would be the dean." And I remember going, "What? Me?" Like, you know, my God, the reason I'm hidden in Mount Horeb is nobody needs to see me. I'm I'm horrible. I you know, she said, well then who do you think? You know, and I knew I had some skills as far as how the class should be run, and I had my share of involvement with a lot of decisions, but you know, preaching the gospel was not my strength. And but I did know that Sasha at the time wasn't ready. Sorry, Sasha, but he wasn't ready at the time, and so on. So I said, well, I guess it's going to be me, you know. But I was resentful about it. But Diane left before the end of the year, and I think it was 11. She left and went out to Oceanside. And she said, Dennis is working me like a dog out here. He keeps putting me up. He says he doesn't get a break. So now he's just working me hard, working me hard. And I just laughed. I said, you deserve it for leaving me. You know? So that was going on for a while. And then Carl, finally in the spring, he was leaving. And Carl went out there. And I would talk to him every night, those guys, you know. You shouldn't have left me here. Woe was me, whatever. And Beth was in the hospital dying, and we were talking. And I was in on the, you know, it was it was Diane and Carl and Dennis and me on a phone. Dennis probably doesn't remember, but they had me on a phone, and I'm listening to the whole conversation, and we're talking there, and I'm just like, I was privy to everything, and I realized that's why they went. was to help Dennis. And then Danny died the same night. It was horrible. And I couldn't imagine them not being there. I had to make my peace with Joshua. Oh man. But it was the purpose. The purpose overrides everything. Anyhow, I know he was happy to have him. But we stayed so close. We were still always going out there. Callie was flying out there. We were going out there. Diane called us days before she died. She was sounding pretty good. Damn it. Can't stand this whining. Anyhow, she told Callie, I'm so happy you stayed in class. It was her number one desires. She was the same from the beginning to the end. Encouraging. I love you, Cara, but I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. I miss her.
Thank you, Steve. Dennis.
right?